Well, hey everybody, it's Chris DeFirio with Keys to the Shop, and welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Now, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at La Marzocco. They've been making espresso machines there since 1927. That's almost 100 years of making espresso machines that really fit any situation that you are in as a coffee operator, as a cafe. You need espresso equipment that is going to stand the test of time, and no brand does this like La Marzocco. Literally like the cornerstone of espresso equipment, in my opinion. I grew up on their machines and I still love everything that they produce. There's so much intentionality, and they take the feedback of their community very seriously. That's why it's dependable, it's beautiful, it is innovative. Things like the KB90 espresso machine with straight-in locking portafilters, the Linea Classic, Linea PB, lots of different things to look at and to experiment with to see which one is the right one for you. Just go ahead and email info@lamarzoccousa.com, and one of their sales folks will walk you through the differences and fit a machine to your needs. And you can go visit lamarzoccousa.com as well for more information there. But if you're in the market for an espresso machine or a great grinder like their new Swan grinder, go check out lamarzoccousa.com. Also, today we are sponsored by our friends at Rattleware. Rattleware, I don't have it with me right now, actually. I travel with a Rattleware pitcher. One of my favorite pitchers that I've used in latte art competitions and else. It just works, you know? And when you have a smallware company that produces things that just work, it feels like, well, yeah, of course they would just work. But you know, that's actually more rare than you think. They love to be functional in the background so that you can function in the foreground. So you can function as the coffee shop that serves people with things that you can count on, like whisks and knockboxes and pitchers and etc. Right? So smallwares, rattleware.com. Just think of those two things together and it just works. It's a big deal when smallwares don't work, and that's what drives Rattleware to give you the best. So rattleware.com. So very briefly, I wanted to mention to you something exciting. We are going to be starting our first webinar pretty soon here, probably in December. So stay tuned to Keys to the Shop on Instagram. If you're not signed up for the mailing list and the newsletter, go ahead, go to the Keys to the Shop website. You can sign up there. And you could find the show notes. You can click on the links provided. But the webinar is going to be Principles for Success in the Cafe. That's not the official title, but that's the topic. It's going to be 90 minutes. We're going to do 30 minutes of Q&A at the end, but an hour's presentation on some core tenets. And it's going to be a paid webinar. The cost right now is $99 per person. But you listening to this shift break are the first to hear about it in public, because I just remembered to tell people about it. So I hope that I get to see you there. It's a limited access. We only have room for about 100 folks in this particular webinar. We might open that up to more people next year because we want to run this again, and we'll be learning a lot from this particular round. I'm excited about this webinar and what will come from it, because there's going to be more offerings from Keys to the Shop. This is just one of, let's say, Lord willing, many offerings, but I wanted to let you know about that. See the show links, the show notes for more links that you can click on for this webinar, but stay tuned. Now, today's episode, I want to talk really briefly about something that I think is really critical, which is a shaping of the model of coffee shop that I think is the future of what customers are looking for in coffee. Now, I kind of feel gross using the word the future, because everybody uses what is the future of as a means to describe what they believe is something that is important. Maybe it's overused. It's a trope now of articles in magazines and other things to say the future is this, the future is that. Well, the future can be predicted by seeing what's happening in the present. And what I see happening right now, I think is worth paying attention to. And this comes to me on the back of a question that somebody sent in via Instagram. Now, this question was sent to me, and I ended up having a back and forth voice message conversation with one of my listeners about this, and it was really fun. And by the way, if you ever have any desire to chat or ask questions, this is what I do. Somebody asked me a while ago, I think it was Angie at Mill City Roasters. We were having lunch and she asked me, what is it you want more of in your business? And you know what I said? I said, conversations. And that's true. This is kind of a conversation. And talking with clients and coaching clients, going to Coffee Fest where I just was and talking to people there. Anything that you see around you has happened because people have had conversations, made up their mind about topics or decisions that they were making, and then taken action on those things. And so I love the idea of having these conversations. And that was a really cool one because this particular one was about I'm in a small town. It's a very rural setting. And the people who are in this rural setting, they are not coffee people per se. When we think of coffee people, we think of people who, I don't know if this is the trope now, but it was the man buns and the Birkenstocks and whatever. I'm probably meshing a lot of different eras because I've got many decades to choose from in my life. But think about the coffee snobs. Think about people who are all fiery and enraged about certain things that are very niche in the industry, and they're keyboard warriors for specialty coffee. Like, those are coffee nerds. Okay, anybody who catches us doing anything or saying anything like what you and I normally do, they would think that is somebody who is obsessed with coffee. The average person is not obsessed with coffee, and thank goodness, because we need them to not really be obsessed with coffee. We need them to love it and appreciate it, buy it, and let it be a part of their life. That's a more sustainable way to promote patronage. We don't really want everybody to be a coffee geek, because I will say there's kind of a correlation between the more geeky you are about coffee, sometimes the harder it is to enjoy it the way that a customer does. And we're going to get back on track here in a second, but makes you want to not know as much as you know sometimes, to just be able to sit back and enjoy the fruit of the labor of what coffee has been able to bring to bear in the industry. It's a magical time in coffee, actually, compared to bygone eras of coffee where you do actually have more quality coffee being produced, being roasted, being served. So what I think is worthy of note here is kind of what I was talking about in my response to this listener in our conversation in the DMs on Instagram. And I want to share it with you, which is, I think, the new classic coffee shop. See, we have a standard in our mind of what a coffee shop is. And that standard is how we kind of identify ourselves as professionals. We say, we're this kind of coffee shop. We're this kind of cafe. But we have a cafe or a coffee shop in mind that we're differentiating ourselves against. And the reason why we have that is because that model has been so ubiquitous and successful. And for a lot of coffee shop history, as we've had that conversation of what makes us a different kind of coffee shop versus the kind that might come to mind immediately, is usually around coffee geek stuff, where we want people to be educated. We give them opportunities. We give them cards with their espresso that has a picture of the farmer, and it has their name and their favorite color. And then it talks about the elevation of the coffee, and you're supposed to take that card with you and, I don't know, put it under your pillow at night and love and hold it forever. The idea, of course, is this is us helping educate the customer about the coffee because we want them to appreciate it more. And you can argue all the live long day about whether or not that's effective. But what I think really is effective is what is happening a lot more now. And that is, we accept the progress that we have made to produce great coffee based on our knowledge of coffee, our knowledge of what has gone on before the coffee reaches the cup, to know and verify with integrity that that is a good coffee. That is something that we can say in our definition of good. As professionals, it has integrity to say it's taking care of people as much as we possibly can. It's taking care of the product as much as it can. As far as we're concerned, we're always going to try to make each step as known and cared for as possible to us. And that's the difference. I think sometimes we have burdened the customer with knowledge of these things as some people might want to know, and that's fine. And James Hoffman on the show recently reiterated his position, long held position, that the customer has to ask a question in order for me to then open up the conversation to the information, right? They have a buy-in moment. But really, people aren't seeking a lot of buy-in moments. They're just buying coffee. And that is what we should be doing, is serving them coffee. And would it be a tragedy if you in your cafe had the best if it was possible, the best coffee in the world with the best hospitality in the world. And that person never heard from you the story. They never heard all the sordid tale and the adventures on the high seas and, the new washing station that got it, all that stuff, right? If they never heard about that, but they kept buying that coffee and they love your coffee shop. They go there. It's comfortable. It's friendly. It's approachable. It's not a slew of different things you have to navigate through in order to try to really prove that you appreciate coffee. You're not requiring people to technically enjoy coffee. You're just allowing them to enjoy it. And you're sometimes, and maybe even as a strategy, keeping your mouth shut a little bit more so that you can just serve and realize that the onus of what goes on behind the scenes is on us, right? It's on us. Actually, it's spelled the same way, isn't it? The onus is on us. And so I don't think that the future, quote unquote, of coffee is let's just like give people more of an immersive experience, of coffee, so that they're burdened with more information and more guilt, more worry, and that kind of thing. If we trust ourselves as professionals enough to know that that information is for us to provide the thing the customer wants, which is a friendly, clean atmosphere, functional space with friendly people, right? Serving really high quality coffee consistently every single day. That's the new classic coffee shop. And it comes in all different shapes and sizes. It can go into the rural settings, it can go into the urban settings, it can go anywhere. But when we start trying to posture ourselves in a way that is outside of those things being the main thing, the enjoyment of the customer, of the coffee itself, and the space and the relationship, those three things, right? The service, the hospitality, then it becomes something different. And it could be different in that you've listened to your community and they might want to know more. Okay, give them what they want. But I have a feeling that we've been developing coffee shops in a way that burdens people with too much technical information, too much logistical information. And really, it's simple. It wouldn't be a tragedy to have a coffee shop run for decades with technically some of the best coffee and hospitality you could ever find, but never toot its own horn about it. It's just really good. And that's its function. When at the end of the day, that's its function. And if we can embrace an understated excellence, a posture of understated excellence, we will prove by living out our values in front of the customer, by giving them what they value, the value of what we offer. We're going to prove that value. We're going to show them, we're going to win their trust. But what we've done is almost the opposite. We've front loaded the whole thing with lots of reasons why you should love and purchase our coffee and enjoy our coffee and support our coffee in our shops, even before you've experienced it. We're telling you all this stuff, and you will disbelieve your palate for the sake of your ears and eyes because you saw the packaging, you heard us talk, but your palate is telling you, well, this coffee is not that great, or that experience I had with that barista is not that great. This coffee shop feels dirty and dank and weird. I think there's those basics that we're missing because we're trying to convince people against their own senses so often. We don't let what we say we want to happen. We don't let that happen. The coffee speaking for itself, and it can. Its function is for people to really enjoy it, purchase more of it. And our function is not to pass on all of the burden of our knowledge to the customer as though that's going to make it more valuable to them. Our role is to care for everything well, so that we can continue to provide them what we think is the best and be satisfied that we've done that. And also, they don't need to know everything about what we do in order for us to be satisfied with what we do. I think that's the mature thing we can do. And it's helpful for the industry because people who are unburdened by the messaging and the marketing and the stories and everything else, not that it doesn't matter, it should matter a lot to us. We're the caretakers of these relationships, not the customers. So we pass the buck often. But the person who is not burdened with those things has more freedom to buy coffee and they'll enjoy it more. They have more margin. They're like, I am buying things that I love because I love them and they provide what I love. It's very simple. and I just get it all the time. Makes it very simple. So the new classic coffee shop is Understated excellence, providing primarily the key value points for customers with that clean, functional space that's welcoming, comfortable, with great hospitality that considers them and is others focused, outward mindset, right? And it provides really amazing coffee consistently, which requires a lot of back end work that they don't necessarily need to know about. They just need to enjoy it. That's how we win. And you could do that anywhere. And there are a lot of people doing that right now. So that's our shift break today. Thank you. It's a little bit longer than usual, but kind of get rambling and we go in the direction we go. I appreciate all of you. And if you have questions and anything else, send it to chris@keystotheshop.com. Don't forget to check out La Marzocco and Rattleware. And I'll see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break from Keys to the Shop.